Excellent. Which takes us on to item 12, which is local government reorganisation. Councillor Edwards, I'll apologise again. The Cabinet Member for Local Government Reorganisation isn't here, so you'll have to put up with me, I'm afraid. So I will propose the report, and I think Councillor Carty or seconding that.
I'll second it,
yeah. So by way of introduction on this one, obviously local government reorganisation is moving at some pace. Just to very briefly touch on devolution, which is obviously the mayoral combined authority. We are expecting the statutory instrument to move ahead with that to come forward shortly and have the elections next May, obviously, for the elected mayor of Greater Essex. But this report focuses on local government reorganisation. So as the report sets out, there is a great deal of work ongoing, and it is looking absolutely clearly like there are likely to be two submissions put forward, or two business cases, as it were. They were previously named business case A and B, but some people decided that they weren't pleased with being called business case A or B, and therefore they've changed the names as the report sets out for the 5-unitary business case and the business case for Greater Essex. But for the purposes of the discussion and the report, I think the clarity comes in that there is the large majority of councils in Essex are working towards the 5-unitary business case. And there's a map in the report of what that looks like, and there are a smaller number of councils working on the other business case. The other business case, as the report sets out, has been looking at an options appraisal to surmise what configuration they think may work best. I think what is emerging clearly now is that that business case is likely to look at 3 unitary authorities, and the work there is being led largely by the county council, who have stated that their preference is, as the report states, is for the map of 3.2. So for ease, what that means is that Harlow would be configured with Epping, Uttlesford, Brentwood and Chelmsford, whereas the 5 just focuses on Harlow, Epping and Uttlesford. Thus far, Harlow has been essentially working in both camps and has not committed either way. We have already committed that this will come to full council in September to ultimately make a decision on the council's position thereafter. I think a couple of other things I'll draw out very quickly is, as the plan we've just discussed mentions, the position of Harlow is absolutely about or Harlow Council is about championing Harlow's interest in local government reorganisation, ensuring that the town emerges in a position of strength and influence, as we've just discussed. But I wouldn't underestimate the amount of work that is ongoing to submit a business case, let alone 2, to the government about local government reorganisation, and the whole host of things that make up the criteria is not straightforward. We have until sort of the end of September to do that. But the really difficult part will come when the government make a decision, and we should be absolutely clear it's the government's decision, not any council's decision on what the future makeup of local government in Essex looks like, and that is when things will take a whole different turn, when councils have to start aggregating and disaggregating to make up services. So this is not quite as simple as lines on a map, because actually what this is focused on is serving our residents. Like I say, the position we take is about what's best for Harlow, and as the report sets out, we have not yet, thus far, concluded what that looks like ultimately. Are there any questions? Councillor Edwards.
I saw the report in your Harlow recently where the county council made it clear that they were going for a 3-unitary, or preference was for a 3-unitary authority. I also obviously received the report here, which I thank the officers for the report. What concerns me, or not concern, concerns will do. What concerns me is that we need to be, it seemed to me, we as councillors, right across the board, need to be in an informed position. And I just wondered whether it would be useful for there to be an officer briefing for all councillors at some point between now and September, because whilst on the one hand, I mean, there's a number of different scenarios. We could arrive at a situation whereby on both sides of the, irrespective of political party, we could be agreeing on a view as to what we think would be best for Harlow. Equally, we might equally arrive at a position where one party takes one view and another party takes another view, But it seems to me wherever we come down to, that it's important that we are all informed, fully informed. So can I make a request that we have this an officer-led briefing and discussion?
Yeah, that is already happening. I think we're getting a date in the diary for ahead of council accordingly to ensure that all members are well informed on that. I think the important part is obviously that will be a decision about the Harlow's position ultimately at that time, but the important part is focusing on actually what we're dealing at hand at the moment, and when that vote is taken is about the business case we support. Thus far Harlow's been, as I say, not declared a position either way. We've been working on both, but ultimately the real detail will come in the next stage when the government can decide the configuration. But yes, like I say, the all-member briefing and a lot more will be happening prior to that. Yep.
I suppose I'm going to comment really, and my apologies.
I think Councillor Gunn and then Councillor.
Thank you. Looking particularly at paragraph 19 of the report that sets out the various criteria that MHCLG are going to be looking at, and we should be mindful that this is ultimately a government decision on which way to go, I think, rather than for us to decide. We'll obviously reach our own view in time. We've got the M11, we've got Stansted just up the road. We're doing lots on integrating transport across Harlow and parts of Epping through the Garden Town Initiative. How important does he think it is that we get those transport links central to what we try and do with unitarisation? And how does he see that working in the context of West Essex? I note that all the proposals, 3 or 5, do link us with Epping, Forest and Uttlesford, so it would give you that M11 connectivity for the new unitary authority would be part of under any scenario.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely well set out, well documented. Harlow and that whole of West Essex is at the heart of the UK Innovation Corridor, and certainly the M11 corridor, as it's referred to, is our natural growth area. There is a single track A414 that crosses Essex. There is a lot more than that that crosses sort of north-south, as it were, along West Essex. But, absolutely that is vital, because all of this ought to be about what is best for Harlow and what is best for its residents, and better infrastructure, better opportunity through, sort of across West Essex is certainly vital. Councillor Durkin.
Sorry, my second question is very similar to that one. You indicated that you've been spending a lot of time talking and visiting other councils. Is there a plan that we as councillors, I know you're going to give us an overview, but is that going to be a collective with potential partners? Because it's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I've read one thing wrong, so I may be on a trail here. But out of the 5 scenarios, there's only one that doesn't have Uttlesford, us, and Epping Forest within that corridor. So my question was, are we going to be doing anything with other councils to develop and enhance those particular issues? And secondly, I know, as Tony said, the Essex have indicated a preference, but I wasn't clear which preference were they looking at. I just hope it's not the one that takes Uttlesford into a different genre. And if I could come back with one more, I'd be grateful.
So just on the Essex one, it's on page 43. It's the second one down, the middle one. So Harlow, Epping, Uttlesford, Chelmsford, Brentwood is the one that Essex have stated as the. No, that's. So just a couple of things. I think firstly on, what sort of councillors do in the round is to get a business case ready of this magnitude by September and get all of the councils agreed is moving at breakneck speed. And actually what all the resource needs to be focused on, and everyone's effort needs to be focused on, is getting that done. and making sure whatever it looks like, it is the best possible business case in our view for Harlow, but also across Essex ultimately. Once that is done, I think there will be a much greater opportunity to look at the sort of things that you reference. Any further questions? Yeah.
Can I also ask, which is very similar to what the Cabinet member said, is that the fundamental issue about this particular issue is how do people get in and out of these particular areas, and what steps are you taking to secure the M11 corridor, but not only just that, it's actually the train links that takes us not only up to Cambridge and beyond, but also into London, and also, of course, we will have, hopefully, some improvements on the underground. So what actions are you taking with our colleagues to shore up, to make sure that, you know, we have the high-speed trains that we deserve, but also high-speed trains that actually stop in Harlow?
Yeah, so, you know, appreciate the connection. I think probably more back to the first report about what we're doing to that regard. But to the wider point about sort of connectivity, M11, train links and the like, I think it's important to look at the government's criteria, because ultimately that is what this is judged against. And, you know, consideration about local identity is a very important one. I don't think there's too many people in Harlow that would, as some of the suggestions look at, identify with living in Thurrock or Malden or anywhere else that some of these suggestions set out. But also, if you look at the first point in the criteria, states very clearly use sensible geographical areas, ideally based on district boundaries. So, you know, I think that is absolutely central to the government's criteria, and therefore that's what the business case has to look to. And if you are to listen to what the government say and what their, I think they call them missions today, I don't know what they might call them in the future, but if you look at their central interest, or at least what they talk about, certainly economic growth. And Harlow's economic growth is in that area, and it, you know, relies on all the things that you mentioned. Councillor Edwards?
The question, how do we ensure, and it's in relation to points 33 and 34, which are, whilst Harlow is not defined as a city at present, its projected population will see it eclipse regional city areas within the next 10 years, and also the importance of ensuring that Harlow is considered as an anchor to the new unitary authorities. So my question is how do we best go about putting forward those proposals?
Yeah, that is what we have been doing since the start of this in both business cases, for exactly those reasons. If you look at the projected growth of Harlow, in 5 years' time we're bigger than Chelmsford. In 10 years' time we're bigger than Cambridge, and therefore I think it's absolutely ludicrous that whatever the configuration is, that Harlow isn't the anchor for that. And if you listen to what the Minister says and what the government says, they're very clear on unitary, new unitary needing an anchor of place. And it's certainly in our interest that Harlow is that anchor, and whatever future unitary looks like accordingly. So we are certainly making that case to both business cases, because I don't want any options going forward to the government that don't have Harlow's best interests at heart, even if we ultimately don't agree with the configuration of them. So you can, again, be assured that we're certainly doing that. Any further questions? There's just one other point I would draw out for people's consideration is whether you look at the 5 unitary model or the 3 unitary model, these are significantly large councils. So if you look at the 3 unitary model, all 3 of them would be right at the upper end of the largest councils, both in the UK and in Europe. They would be absolutely enormous. But likewise, if you look at the 5 unitary model, which some people think are smaller councils, 4 of them would be in the top quartile in terms of size in the UK. The only one which wouldn't be, but be right at the top of the second, is the Harlow, Epping, Utterford one. So in either scenario, we are making, or the government will be making, very large councils. And back to the point about Harlow being the anchor of that, and this being the benefit of Harlow, that is a case that we are banging the drum for every single day. Any further questions on this? No. Any comments? Councillor Durkin?
Yes, I suspect we're all on the same principle that what we want to do is to secure the brightest future we possibly can for Harlow, and I, welcome the council's commitment to be driving this forward with partnerships, and I hope we are working very closely with our Labour MP to make sure that he can maximise any influence he can to make sure that we deliver what we think is right for West Essex. And I think what we need to start doing is stop talking about Harlow and really start talking about West Essex, because Harlow is bursting. This idea that we are this little island is completely ridiculous. We're stuck in this particular area. So I do think the language needs to change. The thought processes need to be changed over these particular issues. I've always had a problem that I thought we should be facing Hertfordshire, not the other way around, but county boundaries won't allow us to do those. And I really do hope, and I think we will, because I think we've got, because I'd say this, I think we've got a government that will listen. I think we've got an MP who will be influential to make that listening turned into action. But it's a bit like the health service. The health service is not Harlow, the health service is West Essex. And actually, our local government has to be West Essex. So I do hope that actually the option that we prefer is the one, and certainly from our side we'll support in anything we can do to make sure that aspiration comes a reality.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments? Councillor Morrison, sorry. Yeah.
Thank you, and thank you very much, Councillor Durkin, for your wise words. I would like to acknowledge the amount of work that's being devoted to this fairly complicated issue by our officers. I know that people have been working really, really hard on this because we're all aware that it is of crucial importance. It is going to happen, and we want it to happen in the right way. It's also really refreshing to find that we speak with one voice. That is really nice. And the remarks that have been made, the questions have been asked, all reflect an agenda which is all about Harlow and ensuring that Harlow is, well, it will be the anchor town. I don't think there's any doubt about that, but that it will work well for Harlow and the people of Harlow. There are lots of benefits to be had, but there's also a certain amount of upheaval, and that's an understatement. We have to be prepared for that. Sometimes that kind of change can be really unsettling, but it can also be extremely positive, and I am certain that it will work very, very well for Harlow. Lots more work ahead, lots more thinking, head scratching, all of that sort of thing. But I think we're going in the right direction and we're approaching it in exactly the right way.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? Councillor Carter. Yeah, it's rebooting. Any final comments? Councillor Gunn.
Thanks. I really want to support something you said on the last item around how the next 2 years is actually really important to get things done. What I think we can anticipate from this is going to be a lot of very difficult work once reorganisation takes place in 2 years' time. We're going to have to come up with new planning documents and so forth and all of the rest of it, and that will definitely make it hard to get on and deliver things. So let's use this opportunity the next 2 years to build Harlow's future.
Very good. Super. In which case, there being no final comments, just echo much of what has already been said. I think just on the devolution bill, I think it was published today. Certainly had a letter from the Minister about it. That you'll be as disappointed as the rest of the country was when you read it, but I'll let you do that. So, if we move to the recommendations, are they agreed by the Cabinet?
Agreed.